On Capitol Hill, both Democrats and Republicans used words like shameful and weak to describe the Helsinki press conference. Despite the president walking back his remarks, some said the damage has already been done. Nancy Cordes has this story.
Was that a full enough correction for you?
Well, that's what I wish he would have said initially, and I'm glad he said it now.
Republicans may be relieved.
I take him at his word. If he says he misspoke, absolutely.
But they still have questions about that 2-hour meeting with Putin.
What did you talk about, and why didn't you want it to be recorded?
And many worry the damage from the president's foreign trip can't be fully undone.
I said yesterday that was shameful. I feel the same today.
This was the Senate's top Republican this afternoon.
Let me just say to our European friends, we value the NATO treaty.
What does it say about the state of our government that you need to stand here and reassure Europe that we are their friends?
Well, I think it's important for our friends to hear from their friends.
As for the Russians,
I think the Russians need to know that there are a lot of us who fully understand what happened in 2016, and it really better not happen again in 2018.
As troubled as Republican leaders were, they were still reluctant to call out Mr. Trump directly.
Vladimir Putin does not share our interests. Vladimir Putin does not share our values.
So should President Trump be rebuked?
What could you do?
CBS News chief congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes is on Capitol Hill. And Nancy, I guess I'll start with this question. Could you put this into context for us? How unprecedented is it to reassure Europe that they are our allies?
Well, it's quite simply put, something that the Republican leader and probably no leader in Congress ever thought that they would have to utter. It is such a given that the European countries are among our strongest allies that the fact that Mr. McConnell felt compelled to come out during his weekly press conference and issue that statement, basically a clarion call to all of these European countries that may have felt slighted by some of the president's comments when he met with their leaders last week, to tell them, well, no, actually take it from us in Congress. You are our friends. We value our NATO alliance. That's just remarkable and something that is very unusual to see from Speaker Ryan, from Leader McConnell, from Democratic leaders or anyone else.
Meanwhile, Senate Republicans are considering a bill that would impose new sanctions on Russia if it interferes again in the midterm elections. What does that suggest to you?
Well, this is a bill, DeMarco, that has been languishing for a couple of months now. It was introduced by Marco Rubio on the right, Chris Van Hollen of Maryland on the left, and it wasn't really going anywhere until the president held this highly unusual press conference in Helsinki. And then it started getting a second look, particularly by Republicans who were looking for some way to send a message to the president. We don't think that you are tough enough on Russia. We want to show you how we think that you should be going about this relationship. And so this is a bill that would basically put more power into the hands of members of Congress. It would give Congress the ability to slap new sanctions on Russia if it interferes in the 2018 election, in the 2020 election. And the unspoken message here essentially is that Republicans don't believe that this president would be as willing to punish Russia for wrongdoing as they would be.
And a final question for you. Looking ahead to next week, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is set to appear in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. What are they hoping to hear from him?
Well, they're going to be grilling him about how this meeting with Vladimir Putin went. They're going to be looking for any kind of details they can glean about what was actually said in that 2-hour meeting. Were notes of any kind taken? Was it recorded by the Americans at all? They want to know what the president's aides told him going into that meeting and into that press conference about what to say, what not to say. Why didn't he listen to those aides? Why did he ignore were the findings of the U.S. intelligence community? What did he say after the meeting about anything that he might have promised the Russian president? Beyond that, there are some members of Congress, DeMarco, who even want to hear from the president's interpreter, one of the only people who was in that small meeting. They'd like to hear from this person as well. It's unlikely that that is going to happen, but they're trying to send a message that they really want to get to the bottom of what was said, promised, exchanged in this very unusual 2-hour private meeting.
Yeah, everybody wants to know what was said in that 2-hour meeting there. Nancy Cordes on Capitol Hill. Nancy, thank you.
You're welcome.